Hello. So, yesterday we went over several things. We went over basics of like first robotics to what is Team Tators to GitHub. What are you downloading? We went into the terminal. We went into GitHub. I think I already said that, but whatever. I just want to do a quick review because the website, or not the website, the video was not working. It like cut off halfway through. It is kind of frustrating. So I'm just going to do a quick video so that it's all available to you guys. So first thing, you should understand what a terminal is. So going here, in order to open a terminal on Windows, you go here and you just type in terminal, or you type in PowerShell. Sorry. And you can run it as administrator, or you just open it, right? But I like using terminal, Windows Terminal, which is a great application from Microsoft because it runs on the V8 engine, which is what Chrome runs on, and you can have multiple tabs that are like PowerShell or like command prompt. You can have Ubuntu, you can have all sorts of stuff, okay, if you have like WSL, and you can also name them. Hello world. And also, you can color them to your heart's content, right? It's kind of dumb, but like the last one was kind of dumb, but it's useful if you have a bunch of things open. But at that point, like, why would you? But whatever. Okay. So this video. I am assuming that you have everything downloaded. So let's go into a repository, or let's go into a folder. So the way terminal works, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. The way the terminal works is it's only done by your keyboard, and theoretically you can basically do anything on your computer. So the thing to understand is that when you are using a terminal, you are inside of a directory or folder, right? So one thing to help me kind of verify visually what is happening and relate it back to Windows Windows is typing Explorer dot. And so this will open up Explorer in this directory. Okay, so you can see that this is my directory. So I can go into, or I can also say ls, which means list, or dir, which is like the contents of this directory. Okay, both of them do pretty much the same thing. They do different things on Linux. They color them differently, and there might be some different things in terms of like linked files and stuff like that, but generally they're pretty much the same. Okay, so I want to go into documents, so I'm going to cd current directory into documents. So I'm just going to type documents. Okay, you can also press tab to like switch between, so I just pressed D and hit tab until it went to documents. Okay, and I hit enter. Now I'm in documents. So this is my file path. Okay, so now I'm going to cd into I'm going to hit ls, so you can see that's the content. So cd programming ls. So now here are my repositories or projects that I work on. The way I organize is I just put all of them in one folder, and so everything is really shallow, and so I don't have like a bunch of subdirectories that have more and more projects. That way, if I am inside of like this project and I want to go to this project, I just have to go back one folder and up one folder. I don't have to go back two and then up two or something like that. And that way it's all like listed very easily. And I can search and stuff like that. So anyway, so I'm going to, now we need to verify that we have Git. So let's type in Git, G-I-T. Okay. This is the program that interacts with GitHub. And don't pronounce it GitHub. It's not that. It's basically version control up on the cloud, right? So what we need to type in, and I'm going to verify by going to github.com and then intro web dev. I know you can't see my thing. Intro web dev. Code. Copy. So you're going to type in this, git clone, and you're going to paste this link, https github.com, tsaxking, that's my account, and then intro web dev, and that is this repository, .git. And so I'm not going to actually run this because I've already have it in this directory, right? I could make dir test cd test, and then run that git clone. And so you can see now if I do ls, you can see that it has that thing. Before it didn't. So if I cd into intro web dev and I do ls, you can see now it has all of these folders. This was copied off of GitHub. So now if I go to code dot, this will open VS Code in this directory. That's what this dot is, similar to the explorer dot that I said earlier. This thing, that just means current directory. Okay. And so if I hit enter, I will open Visual Studio Code in this directory. Way, yay, way cool. All right, I'm actually going to close out of that. CD back, CD back. And you can also CD multiple times, so CD. You can do that too to move multiple things in one. Okay, and then I'm going to remove test. Yes. Oh, I guess that didn't work. Explorer dot. Sometimes like permissions don't work in the command line. It's kind of frustrating. So where is test? Delete. Yay. Okay. Now ls, you now shouldn't be able to see test. Does not exist. Okay. So now I'm going to cd intro web dev code dot. So now this is just the one that is actually on my computer. Okay. So as you can see, this is those of you who were on the thingy yesterday, this is kind of what I was working on, and I was talking about it. So now Visual Studio Code is a great resource for like text editing and writing code. The other one is Visual Studio. Both of them are done by Microsoft. Visual Studio, from what I understand, is mostly like C-based. And if you want to write Java, I recommend oh god, what is it called? IntelliJ. This is attempting to be like really universal. So anyway, from what I understand. So I'm going to delete these two. Nope, not that one. I'm going to delete that. And I'm just going to go over HTML. I went over the terminal. I'm just going to double check. I don't really need to go over all of that. You should read through these so you can understand it. I went through all of that. Okay. So just basics of HTML. I'm just going to call it index.html. That word will be used a lot. So in order to create a new HTML file, which all you have to do is hit exclamation point and hit enter. And what that will do is create the boilerplate code for the HTML file to be read properly on the browser. Okay, so this stuff is like metadata, and that's why, it's meta. This title, you can change the like thing that comes up here. That's what this document is. That's what this is. And so if I open this in live server, wait, where is it? Control B. Oh, I can go here. Go live. I'm actually going to go to this screen so you can see my terminal, this screen, and this. Okay, and you can't really see document very well. I'm going to go over here so you can kind of see that's document. Maybe. I don't know. Not sure which one's better. But anyway, if I change this to saxophone, you can see it changes this a little bit to saxophone. You can't really zoom in on that, which kind of sucks, but whatever. It does. Just trust me. Alright, so basics of HTML. You have text. I have GitHub Copilot, so it'll probably just auto-populate stuff, so that's what that is. So first thing is the paragraph, which I forgot to say, HTML consists of opening tags and closing tags. Basically, it's just you put content inside by putting it in here. Okay, so now you can see I have two different things. Okay. So this is a paragraph. You can have this heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Come on. so on and so forth, up to heading 6. So you can, I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. So you can see that this is a paragraph and it goes heading 6. Then you have what are called anchor tags, which the easiest way to type in VS Code, write HTML in VS Code, is to utilize what are called CSS selectors. So if I want to write a paragraph, all I will do, or just write the tag name, but it can handle CSS selectors. We'll get into that later. But all I have to do is write the tag name, and I just say enter. Okay, so if I want to type in a link, I would just hit A. A means anchor, and that's a link. So if I hit enter, you'll see this thing pop up, href. This is basically the link that I want to go to. So if I want to go to google.com, now I'm going to have a link. I should put a link here. Okay, so now you can see that this link exists. And if I click on this, it will get frustrated because it doesn't know where it's actually going. That's funny. I need to put HTTPS. There. So now, if I click on that link, it'll take me to google.com. Yay! So that's how that works. Or, if I don't want it to change the page and I want it to open a new one, I just have to say target equals blank. Now, if I click on this, it'll open a new one. Okay, that's how that works. So, that's how links work. You can also use CSS selectors, specifically IDs, test ID. We'll get into that in a second, but I just want to put that there so I won't forget. Okay, so now other text would include I, which this is in italicize. I'm spelling that wrong. Italicize. There we go. Okay, so italicize. Then you have bold. Okay, and you also have strong, which is kind of weird. Those are actually like the same thing. Actually, now that I kind of look at it, I think bold is a little bit more than strong. Bold, the way font weight works is you have from 100 to 900. I don't know why they didn't just do it from 1 to 9 or 0 to 8. But it goes in steps of 100. So, this might just be weaker than that. Now that I kind of look at it, they look vaguely, very slightly different. Anyway, and then you have emphasize, which is basically the same thing as italicize. You have underline. It's obvious. You have strike through. Yeah. Let's see what else GitHub Copilot will come up with. Oh, the next one is span, which is an important one, which it doesn't actually do anything in terms of this or any of these. It keeps everything, keeps all of the, what is it called? Keeps all of the formatting from above. So I can type in stuff, okay? And as you can see, this treats it as a paragraph because that's the default. But if I go over here and put the span inside of here, you can see it treats it as heading 6 or I'll do heading 1. Okay, but the question of why is this necessary? Well, it's necessary for later we'll get into stuff, but if you do ID equals thing. And if you have a script that document, all I have to do is use JavaScript and I can specifically point to this thing instead of the whole thing. It's just a little bit easier. Okay. And so as you can see, stuff has been changed to things, this little script. And if I comment this out and reload, is now stuff. So there are some use cases for this. You can also style, add classes and stuff onto things inside of things. So, for example, if I take this and I go S, it'll be a strike through heading 1, right? And so these are the top level and these are the lower level. And then span is the lowest level. Okay, so that's all text. The next one you really need to understand is div. which I learned yesterday was called a division. I just call it a box because that's what it is. Basically, this is almost like if there's nothing in it, then it's nothing. And it's just a container for you to hold other things in, and then you can format as a box. Format in different ways. So we'll get into like why it's used, but it is the most common thing. If you go into dev tools, we'll get into that in a minute. Well, more so like next week when you get into JavaScript, but we'll get into that later. And basically, it's used everywhere. It's like the default. Okay. Next one is forms. Oh, this is a comment, by the way. And how to comment is you do control ? Or control /, and that will get you a comment. Okay. This stuff is not read, not available. So if I uncomment this, you can see forms is a thing, but if I comment it, it doesn't exist on the site. Okay. So quick thing about forms. Let's just take a look at this. Basically, I should have this closing tag. There are inputs. These are text inputs. Okay, so you have a name, blah, email, blah, at blah.com, and then password. This is how you get the dots. This is how you get the email verification kind of stuff. And this is my password manager getting really confused. So you don't actually need this form, but like it's used for multi-page website, multi-page applications, and a server. And if you use PHP, that's a thing, but I don't. We're not going to teach PHP. Although it's completely valid. But whatever, that's kind of beside the point. Sorry for yawning. This is the like boilerplate, like inputs. This is a text, email, password, and then submit, which is just a button that you press and it submits. Okay. And when you have the submit button inside of here, it'll run on your server this function, basically. And so we'll get into how to handle those things later. But that's how that works, and it'll be handled as a post request. You can also handle it as a get request, or a head request, or anything. But really, it's just post or get are the ones that you really need to care about. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of those. We don't really care about them. These are useful for like GUIs. We use them in Team Tators a lot. Specifically the select. So select. Okay, name, blah, ID, blah, blah. By the way, you can't have spaces instead of IDs. You can have spaces inside of classes, but not IDs. So select option 1, 2. This is just the drop down. And if you're on a mobile device, so I'm going to inspect and go to that, which means mobile. And I click on this. Oh. I guess it doesn't render as it would on a mobile device. But anyway, you'll see like a pop-up come up, and those are the options. Okay. So, oh my God, someone's calling me. Nope, not answering that. All right. Anyway, so those are the basics. That's the basics of HTML. We then just kind of started working on creating content for our favorite animal. Oh, I forgot lists. Next one, you have two different types of list, is UL, which is unordered list, and then you have OL, which is ordered list. Okay, and then inside of them you have LI, which is a list item, and then you can have like links or any sort of text inside of them. Actually, well, literally anything inside of them, but generally people put paragraphs. So this is an unordered list, and then you have a list item, and then ordered list with a list item, li, thing. So you can see the difference. This is thing with a dot, thing with a number, Then you can also put ordered lists inside of list items, which is kind of cool, right? And so that's how like Google Docs works in terms of the thingy. And if we put unordered lists inside of unordered lists, it'll do this black circle, and then we'll go to a square, and then we'll go to black square again. I think it just stays on black square. That's right. But that's how that works. Okay. So as you can see, when you work on HTML, stuff gets big. Stuff gets like really deep very quickly. We try to avoid this by separating files and like importing files into other files. But that takes like some server-side rendering. And you also do client-side rendering. We'll get into that later. So anyway, you have text area, which is just multi-line thing that you can also move and change. And you can set the columns and the rows, and that's just how many columns you have and how many rows you have. Pretty simple. You have checkboxes. Pretty simple. Checkboxes are a little bit weird. Checkboxes and radios are a little bit weird. I would just read the MDN docs or just use Bootstrap. But you need to understand like how it works. You have to have like the name be the same in order for it to reference the same way, and then you have to like in terms of like JavaScript, like it's just kind of weird. But because you can have multiple, it's just weird. Well, I'm not gonna really get into it. So this stuff is all for like GUI stuff, GUI, GUI. And I talked about lists. So now I'm gonna talk about Bootstrap. So if I go here, and I'm gonna go to this screen, I'm just gonna type in Bootstrap 5. Yep, and then click the first link. All right, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see better. Okay. Bootstrap 5 is a great resource. So how to import it into your website is client side only. So I'm gonna copy this CSS, Control A. Whoops. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna put it here. Okay, and then I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna copy it. Boink. I'm going to paste it at the bottom of my body. Okay, so do not put it anywhere else. Generally, you put JavaScript at the bottom of the body. Do not. There's not really a reason too much to put it anywhere else. While the order of scripts matter, like JavaScript generally will work the same way here as it will here. With the exception of like stuff in the DOM being loaded and stuff like that. So if you put it up here, you have to use like an add event listener, DOM content loaded, or if you put it up here especially, like people just put it there to avoid the complications. That's what I mean. All right, so now I'm going to zoom out ever so slightly so we can see this off canvas. That's just how you import it. And so now you can see that our font has changed. Okay, so now if I get rid of this, the font is Times New Roman, but if I do this, the font looks a little bit better, right? It's sans serif, which is more disability friendly, and it's just generally better for. I mean, it's the industry standard, and that's just I'm going to be using that term a lot. So, quick overview of understanding like Bootstrap. You have access to these colors. These are the color names. So primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, and dark. Okay. These are great resources. These are great colors. They work really well together. I mean, with the exception of like putting yellow on green, or like there are some weird combinations, but generally these work really well together. They're kind of muted a little bit, but they still kind of pop, especially primary. So these are the default colors. You can also, if you go into, if you start learning Sass and how to modify them, you can go to here and you can learn how to modify it. And that's how you do it. So we're not going to do that. next thing, breakpoints. Bootstrap is mobile friendly. And when you go onto a website or when you build a website, my Netflix started happening. All right, that's okay. So when you tell someone, hey, can you go to my website? The device that they're going to go on is not a computer, it's going to be their phone. And so you need to make your device mobile friendly. And you've probably gone onto websites that were not mobile friendly at all because they just sucked, ultimately. Like, they were just bad. Like, you had to scroll right, and it was just like stuff was popping up all over the screen. Like, images didn't load well. Stuff was coming off to the right, and you couldn't even see half of it. Like, you need to make your devices mobile friendly, and that is probably the most important part. And Bootstrap actually makes that really easy. Okay, so if you're writing your own CSS, which is garbage language for garbage people, we made that very clear yesterday. It's kind of difficult to do that, but what you need to learn are like flex boxes. So if you learn flex box, you look that up. You have this great guide to flex boxes and stuff like that, and how to use it in CSS. But we don't really use much of that. There's a little bit, but not much really, because of these breakpoints. These make it so easy. So from the difference between a phone and a large monitor really is just the width, because both of them scroll. So we don't really care too much about height. I mean, you can a little bit, but the most important part is width, because people don't like scrolling to the right or scrolling to the left in order to view stuff. People like scrolling up and down, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, like almost anything you can possibly think of. I mean, I know those were apps, but still, like, those scroll. Those are designed to be mobile friendly. I mean, they're designed to be on mobile, but whatever. So, basically, the width of your screen is directly correlated with these breakpoints. So a small screen is greater than or equal to 576 pixels, blah, blah, blah. You can read through it. And so these are the terms these are the, IDs for these, for the width of the screen. Okay. So, how do you use this? First, containers. So I'm going to delete everything. Whoops. I'm going to delete everything, and I'm going to have you just ensure that you have Bootstrap 5 code snippets. Bootstrap 5. And if you click on quick snippets, I'm going to zoom out, or undo this, and zoom out a little bit. It's this thing. You should install it, because then, inside of your HTML, you can just say BS, and then hit enter. And this will import your JavaScript, right? Your JavaScript in terms of Popper and your general script. You also need jQuery in order for Popper to work properly. We'll get into that. And then it imports your CSS. So, I'm gonna delete. Wow, yawning a lot. I'm gonna delete those for now. So what we care about, in terms of the containers, with Team Tators, what I actually personally care about most are the container and then container fluid. These are also available to you, but generally you don't use them. Okay, so the container has breakpoints, so that every single section of every single what's it called? Every single breakpoint of the width of the screen, it will jump to this width, okay? And this is very important because when you have really large screens, you don't want such small content to be taking up the full width of your screen. These large screens are great for like gaming or coding and stuff like that, my DAW work and stuff, but viewing websites, you actually want to keep it kind of in the middle. But oftentimes you don't want it to look like a PDF, like if you go to the first website. Not that. Maybe they changed it since like last year. Decline. Let's go to about. Now, this is it. I honestly hate this website just because this kind of looks bad. And also this looks really bad. But anyway, but technically the fact that this is in the middle is actually a good thing. And that's what containers allow you to do very easily. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back in a little bit. So to make a container using CSS selectors really easily, all you have to do is say dot container and then hit enter, and it will make a div with a class of container. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. Dot container, and dot means period. Okay, so when I write HTML really quickly, I don't write div class equals container, and then it automatically does that. It's faster to just go dot container, right? They both do exactly the same thing, and with VS Code, it makes that really easy. Okay, so you have container, and then you have dot container fluid, and I'm going to actually have the same content in both, so you can really clearly see the difference between the two. Container fluid means it always takes up the full screen, as you can see here. Container means it has the breakpoints set at every single one. All right, and it's mobile friendly. So now let's go to the grid. I'm not going to really use this very much, but you can read through it. Basically, the grid always has to be inside of a container, and you just say dot row. Now we have a new row. I'm going to do dot row on the next one. Dot row. Actually, I'm just going to copy and paste. And then you have the ability to make columns. So dot col will make a column content. Okay, so this column will take up. I guess my live server is not working anymore. I'm gonna dispose of that live server and go live again. Boink, there we go. That's my content. Now I can add multiple of those columns. Now I have 4 rows. If I get rid of the CSS and save, now, that's funny. If I get rid of the CSS, comment it out, you can see now it is just up and down. But if I bring back the CSS, it formats it well. Okay, and so this is inside of a container, and then I can also put it inside of a container fluid, right? So at this breakpoint, they're the same, but as you spread out, as you can see, they become different, right? And this is how the breakpoints work. If I zoom out, you can see that the content is smaller with the first one, with just the container, but full width with the container fluid. It's actually kind of interesting that both of these are exactly in line with each other, which kind of makes sense, but whatever. All right, so I'm going to zoom back in. Okay, this is where Bootstrap becomes really powerful. So now, using breakpoints, or actually, you can have up to 12 columns. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm just going to copy and paste this. Copy, paste, paste. All right, and then paste, paste, save. So now I have 6 columns, but if I zoom out, I will have only up to 12 columns. I can't have any more. If I like copy this again, paste it, it'll add a new. Whoa, it didn't. That's actually kind of interesting. I stand corrected. Okay, well, there are 12 columns that you can use to span, but I guess if you just put in col, it doesn't happen. That's actually kind of interesting. I'm going to now delete container fluid because we don't need it anymore, because I have already demonstrated how it works. So now, I'm going to make a col 6. This spans 6 columns, and then dot col 3. This spans 3 columns, and then another this col 3. Okay, so now, as you can see, when I put this in, col 6 will span 6 columns, and these will span 3 columns. So this is important. You have up to 12 columns. Okay, 12 is a highly composite number, similar to like 360 for like degrees. So highly composite means it's divisible by a lot of good numbers, like nice numbers, basically. So 12 is divisible by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. And so it's great for making columns and, that are like you have up to 6 columns. With the exception of 5, you can't have 5 even without, like, by using this method, you can't have 5 even columns. Using call, you can, but whatever, that's beside the point. And I guess you can have 13 or 700. Depends on the width of your columns. It's actually kind of interesting. I didn't know that. Anyway, that's beside the point. Basically, you have up to 6 columns or 12 columns. Okay. So if I have 2 call 6s, then I am going to have a total of 2 columns, right? Because 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I'm going to have 2 total columns. So this is how many of those columns you are spanning. If you have call 12, it's going to span the full width. If you have call 1, it's going to span one width, one of them. Okay? And so then I can do this over and over again, and it will span, I guess it's saying spanning 6 columns. I'm going to change that, spanning 1 column. If I just do that, you can see that it only goes up to 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and it stops at, well, and then it wraps to the next one. And this will not change depending on width. You will always have 12. You cannot have more or less. Well, I guess you can have less, but you cannot have more without, like, those things. And then the next thing is breakpoints. Okay, so you can say .call. So I'm going to make a column. When the screen is medium, it's going to take up 6 columns. Okay, that's what this is saying. This spans 6 columns on a medium and large devices. At smaller devices, it spans to the whole row. So this is important. This takes up 6, but if I start zooming in, it takes up the entire container. Okay, if I zoom out, it goes to 6 and stays at 6, but if I zoom in, it takes up and has that breakpoint between a medium and a small device. Okay, and that's how you use these breakpoints in terms of columns. And that's basically how it works globally. So on a small device, it'll take up 12, but on everything else, it'll take up 6. Okay, and so using this, you can make it make content that .call md6 .call lg4 .call xl 3 .call xxl 1, and what this is going to do, so I'm going to copy and paste this, and so you can really clearly see what's happening. So I'm going to go here and zoom way out. I'm going to delete the last 2 because I didn't need those last 2. All right. So as you can see, this is taking up 12 columns, but as I zoom in, the columns change. So here, 12 columns. Here, there are 4 columns. Here, there are 3 columns, 2 columns, 1 column. And that's how you use these breakpoints. Okay, so this is saying at a large screen, it'll take up 1 column. This will take up 3 columns. This will take up 4 columns. Actually, I might change this to be 2. What's actually cool about VS Code is you can use your mouse wheel and you can change a bunch of things vertically. So I just took my mouse wheel and I dragged. That's actually kind of cool. So now when I save this and zoom out, it'll take up 6 columns. And as you zoom in, it responds. And this is what's really cool about Bootstrap, is that it's highly responsive. Okay. Now, we didn't really go too far into stuff besides that, but what I recommend you do is just look at this stuff and you just read through the documents. Oh, you can make a heading. Awesome. It formats your headings like that. Oh, you can also add an H1 to change your heading. That's cool. You can have a text muted. That changes things. Okay, that's interesting. Display headings. What are these? Whoa, that's cool. I'm not going to go through everything. Bootstrap has a great website for you to be able to just copy and paste code, and it will work, right? It is just amazing at that stuff. You can view how form controls work. You can view how input groups work, how floating labels work. And floating labels are actually really cool because they have that like email address. Now it's up at the top. That's really cool. You can have like validation. You can have all sorts of really cool stuff happening. Accordions are quite useful because they have this. And they use a combination of JavaScript and CSS to make this work. I just want you to go through Bootstrap, read through the documents, understand what the document, understand specific things, and use them on your HTML file that you're building. I don't want you to have something, like, it doesn't have to be super verbose and complicated, but I want you to be familiar with Bootstrap because this is like the industry standard. If you go to jsdeliver.com, Bootstrap, jsdeliver.com, and I'm just going to jsdeliver and then look up Bootstrap. Bootstrap is the second most popular front-end style framework that you can have. It's not actually a framework. A lot of nerds will be like, hey, it's not actually a framework. It's not actually a framework. But because like React or Angular or Vue is a framework, whereas Bootstrap is technically like styling and stuff like that. But it has a little bit of framework-esque type of stuff, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. So it is the second most popular. I actually don't know what is the most popular. But basically JSDeliver is some sort of is a website that serves these files. And as you can see, if I click here, this is just a JavaScript file, that contains the script for Bootstrap. And then this is the CSS file that contains all of the CSS for Bootstrap, right? So, like the way like internet work or the way websites work is instead of always asking your server to get stuff, it will ask hundreds of servers to get stuff, and it will all come back, and that will build that website. Because JSDeliver's servers are not going to ever go down, and so people upload to there instead of using their own servers. It's just better. So, I don't really think there's anything else. Part of your, I'm not going to really call it homework, but part of your project that we wanted you to do was work on your favorite animal project, and you can kind of take a look at this and see what's going on. I'm going to delete this one. You don't really need to see it, I don't think. We're going to add a markdown file for Bootstrap so you can see what's happening. Excuse me. And then it's right here. But we're going to do a little bit more with this, so you can really clearly see what you need to learn. What am I saying? I completely forgot. Oh. And then the other part was I want you to come back with 2 sites, one bad and one good. And I want you to tell me why you think that a certain website is good and that a certain website is bad. Basically, it's all about UX. We'll go over what UX is. It's user experience. We'll go over that and so you can understand like why it's important and what you can do to improve your UX. Or your user's UX, whatever, it doesn't really matter. The UX of your sites? I don't know the exact way to say that, but regardless, we're going to go over exactly how that works and what what is good, what is bad about each of those sites. You're also going to present on your HTML file and show us what you got. All right. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask any of my assistants or me. I'll be on the Discord server. Just let me know. All right. Thank you so much.